Hi there, welcome to the archives. So I'm going to do another book share. I'm almost done. I shared this last time. Being Jewish After the Destruction of Gaza, A Reckoning by Peter Beinart. So I'm almost done it. I just wanted to share a few sections from here, as well as other books. This book is about the story Jews tell ourselves to block out the screams. It's about the story that enables our leaders, our families, and our friends to watch the destruction of the Gaza Strip, the flattening of universities, the people forced to make bread from hay, the children freezing to death under buildings turned to rubble by a state that speaks our name and shrug, if not applaud. It's about the story that convinces even Jews that are genuinely pained by Gaza's agony that there's no other way to keep us safe. It's our version of a story told in many variations by many people in many places who decide that protecting themselves requires subjugating others, that equality is tantamount to death. I still believe in the metaphor of Jews as a family. I sent this part to some of the politicians. It has been corrupted. Jewish leaders have turned our commitment to one another into a moral sedative. They have traded on our solidarity to justify starvation and slaughter. They have told us that the way to show we care about the Israelis taken hostage by Hamas is to support a war that kills and starves those very hostages, and that the way to honor the memory of the Israeli Hamas murdered is to support a war that will create tens of thousands more scarred, desperate young Palestinians eager to avenge their loved ones by taking Israeli lives. We need a new story based on equality rather than supremacy, because the current one doesn't endanger only Palestinians, it endangers us. This book is for Jews, the Jews who are still sitting at that Shabbat table, and for the Jews, sometimes their own children, who have left in disgust. I yearn for us to sit together, but not this way, not as masters of the house. Chapter 2 starts with an account of some of the Israeli Jews that were attacked on October 7th. So it talks about Lilia N, for instance, who has not publicly disclosed her last name. She's a 26-year-old with straight blonde hair, tattoos on her arms and collarbone. She lived less than a mile from the Gaza border, and on October 7, Hamas downed one of its electricity poles, and so it talks about like what her family went through. She was one of the lucky ones. It talks about Liza Idan, who called her daughter-in-law in Kibbutz Kfar Aza. That one is about 3 miles away from Gaza. Their granddaughter Amelia, Abigail, who was killed. It talks about how one of the Hamas fighters entered their home and murdered their mother. They also killed their father. Their older brother was 9, Michael. He hid in a closet waiting for food and water for almost 14 hours. So it does like the both sides, right? It talks about Israeli lives that were lost on October 7th. But it also talks about how when it comes to Palestinian lives, there's no names, there's no mention of, there's that dehumanizing thing where there is no direct, there's no story, right? It's just a number, it's just a statistic. Hamas supporter, a terrorist, right? So it does, I could see that the author is really trying to try to thin line, right? Show loyalty, obviously, to the Jewish people, but also at the same time be like, this, we have to also not just talk about the crimes against us, but the crimes that we commit as well too. So yeah, there's a part I wanted to share here around the ICJ, right? A lot of people will say the ICJ is anti-Semitic. It says on page 71, it says, if any other government faced accusations being leveled against Israelis by journalists, academics, diplomats, human rights groups, international courts, the United Nations, and by the population being killed, most Jews would believe them. In the 1990s, the American Jewish Committee supported the international tribunals that tried leaders of Rwanda and former Yugoslavia. I saw today at the dentist that Congo is asking for Kibali, one of its former presidents, to get the death sentence for war crimes. Just today, I just saw it at the dentist's office. It's 111. So obviously, when it comes to African leaders, right, we still believe in the ICJ and the International Criminal Courts, right? We can see that we're like, oh, Congo, okay, they want, yeah, the African leader would get death sentence for a war crime. But when it comes to Israel, it's like, oh no, it's anti-Semitic. Now the international community is just, they're anti-Semitic. There's nothing valid about them. But like the author writes, in the 90s, the American Jewish Committee supported the International Tribunal when it tried Rwanda and former Yugoslavia. In February of 2024, Jonathan Greenblatt, who's the head of ADL, condemned the genocide of the Uyghur people in China. So after October 7th, right? So again, Jonathan Greenblatt condemned the genocide of the Uyghur people in China, but how did the AJC and ADL decide that these regimes were doing something wrong? By listening to the same human rights groups that they call anti-Semitic when they condone Israel. While some Jews on the religious right, especially in Israel, mock the entire concept of human rights as Western and therefore un-Jewish, that's not the way most Jewish leaders speak. It's certainly not how they speak to the world. So, like I said, I'm almost done. Some of the accounts, like how the Second Intifada is talked about in here, is a little bit different than how the Palestinian youth movement taught me and others at like the encampment here in Ottawa, for instance, right? And I do see like there's an attempt, it talked about like Nat Turner in here, who's a couple days ago on the 21st of August was the anniversary of the Nat Turner Rebellion. And so there are attempts to call it what it is, right? This resistance is not unlike Nat Turner. It's not unlike, I think it talked about the white people that were killed in Haiti, for instance, during the resistance. And yet at the same time, it denounces like Hamas, for instance, right? So you're just like, well, was it a resistance? So here, on page 39, there are better analogies. October 7th has more in common with the murder, torture, and rape of thousands of Europeans in newly independent Haiti in 1804, or the Fort Mims massacre of white settlers by Creek Indians in what is now Alabama in 1813. Or the Lari massacre by Mau Mau rebels seeking to overthrow British colonialism in Kenya in 1953. Gruesome, pitiless attacks by oppressed peoples resisting dispossession. Right? So for many Jews today, pondering these analogies is unalien and uncomfortable. The equivalent of imagining Hagar murdering Abraham and Sara, or the 7 nations of Canaan massacring the forces of Joshua ben Nun. They alter the script that explains who we are. So again, I'm almost done this. I also started reading Get a Grip, Vivy Cohen. Get a Grip, Vivy Cohen by Sara Kapit. So Vivy Cohen is determined. She's had enough of playing catch in the park. She's ready to pitch for a real baseball team. But Vivy's mom is worried that her being the only girl on the team and the only autistic kid. She wants Vivy to forget about pitching, but Vivy won't give up. When her social skills teacher makes her write a letter to someone, Vivy knows exactly whom to choose. Her hero, a major league pitcher, VJ Capello. Then two amazing things happen. A coach sees Vivy's knuckleball and invites her to join his team, and VJ starts writing back. Now Vivy is a full-fledged pitcher with a catcher as a new best friend and a steady stream of advice from VJ. But when an accident puts her back on the bench, Vivy has to fight to stay on the team. This is perfectly pitched novel in letters. Vivy makes her dreams come true and finds a whole team, from friends and family to a big league hero to cheer her on. So I'm trying to study how folks are writing middle grade fiction. So specifically around like autistic characters, because none of Essie's autistic coded, although hers is more from brain injury than autism. I'm still trying to study to see how others write it. Some other books I got here is A Boy Named Queen by Sara Cassidy. When a new boy in Evelyn's 5th grade class tells everyone his name is Queen, Evelyn doesn't know how the class will react. She isn't even sure how she will react. Queen wears shiny gym shorts and wants to organize a chess environment club. His father plays weird, loud music and has tattoos. Queen seems to live by his own rules, and even the bullies don't faze him. Evelyn and Queen become friends, almost against Evelyn's better judgment. Sometimes she wishes he would just stop attracting so much attention to himself. Yet Queen is the most interesting person Evelyn has met. And when she is invited to his house to celebrate his birthday, she starts to discover some pretty interesting things about herself too. So, this is A Boy Named Queen. So yeah, I'm trying to do some study. And I also got, this one I haven't started yet, Careless People. A cautionary tale of power, greed, and lost idealism, a memoir by Sara Wynn-Williams. So I'll come back and do this one. Doing jail time in a foreign country is not a reasonable ask from your boss, but it honestly had not occurred to me that I could say no. I have this thing which sometimes I think is related to being an eldest daughter here. That someone has to take responsibility and do the hard thing, and I guess that's going to be me. Yeah, that's very eldest daughter. Also, I have survived a near-death shark attack once. So how bad could it be? So again, I haven't read this yet. I'll come back and share this at a later date, but I just wanted to share some of the books that I've got going on over here. So yeah, until next time, in solidarity.